Abdul Rahim al-Huwaiti recorded his last video on a Tuesday afternoon in January 2020. He stood in front of his family home and spoke directly into his phone. The government had given his village an ultimatum: leave your homes for the NEOM mega project or face the consequences. He said he would not leave. His tribe had lived on this land for generations. This was their home. No construction project was worth more than their right to exist. The next day, Saudi security forces surrounded his home. By nightfall, Abdul Rahim al-Huwaiti was dead. This is not a story Saudi Arabia once told. In this video, I will expose what happened to the man who said no to NEOM. I will reveal what happened to his entire tribe after he was killed, and I will show you the systematic campaign of displacement, arrest, and execution that Saudi Arabia is carrying out to clear the land for a city that may never be built. How far will a government go to build a vanity project? The answer includes killing its own citizens. The Hawatat tribe has inhabited the Tabuk region of northwestern Saudi Arabia for centuries. Their ancestral lands stretch across the territory, now designated for NEOM. According to AUXT, a London-based Saudi rights organization, an estimated 20,000 members lived across dozens of villages in the NEOM zone. Villages like Gail, Sharma, and Kuraba had existed for generations. Families built homes, planted gardens, buried their ancestors. This was not empty desert. The Hawatat are one of the largest tribal confederations in the Arabian Peninsula. Their connection to this land predates the Saudi state itself. When NEOM's planners drew borders on a map, they drew them around a living community. In 2017, the promotional videos showed empty desert, futuristic renderings, clean sand waiting for glass and steel. They never showed the villages that were already there. In 2017, residents received notices. Their land had been designated for national development. Compensation was offered, but residents told investigators the amounts were a fraction of actual value. Some families offered as little as 50,000 rials, roughly $13,000. Some Hawatat families maintained agricultural land passed down through centuries. Date palm groves, grazing areas, water access. None of this was valued in the compensation offers. AUXT estimated the total uncompensated loss across all displaced Hawatat families exceeded $200 million. Saudi Arabia's official compensation budget for the entire operation was reportedly under $30 million. The Saudi government described this as fair market value. That is government speak for, we decide what your home is worth, and you accept it or else. $13,000 for a home your family occupied for 200 years. That is what progress looks like when the government decides your land is worthless. Most residents signed. They had no choice, but some refused. Abdul Rahim al-Huwaiti became the most visible of those who said no. In the weeks before his death, he posted multiple videos. He spoke calmly, directly, without threats. He stated his tribe had rights to their land. He described security forces visiting his village, vehicles circling homes at night, surveillance, pressure on elders to convince holdouts to accept. He said security officers told him directly, "If you don't leave, we have other methods." He recorded it, so there would be a record. On January 13, 2020, security forces arrived. The Saudi government claimed he opened fire first. Officers returned fire in self-defense. His family tells a different story. They say he was unarmed. AUXT reported witnesses described a coordinated assault on his home. After the killing, Saudi authorities moved quickly. Within days, surrounding villages reported accelerated displacement operations. Residents of Gail, the village closest to al-Huwaiti's home, reported being given 24 hours notice to vacate. Those in Sharma and Kuraba received similar ultimatums within the week. The evacuation was rapid and chaotic. Families loaded what they could into vehicles. Anything left behind was forfeit. There would be no second trip. The message was unmistakable. This is what happens when you refuse. Multiple tribe members who spoke against displacement were arrested within weeks. According to Dawn, at least a dozen were detained without formal charges. Some held in solitary confinement for months. The charges when they came were extraordinary. Saudi Arabia's specialized criminal court, the Terrorism Tribunal, charged them with terrorism offenses for refusing to leave their homes. One tribe member with contacts outside Saudi Arabia spoke to Human Rights Watch. He described what happened after the killing. Security forces went door to door. Families given 48 hours to vacate. Those who argued were photographed. Names added to a list. Disappeared. That word carries specific weight in Saudi Arabia. Enforced disappearances are well documented by the United Nations. In 2021, the court handed down verdicts. At least 5 tribe members sentenced to death. Their crime: taking up arms against the state. Human rights organizations disputed this entirely. These were residents who opposed forced displacement, not armed combatants. Homeowners who said no. Let that sink in. Saudi Arabia sentenced its own citizens to death for resisting displacement from ancestral land. For a project that is years behind schedule, the timeline reveals deliberate and systematic escalation. In 2017, Nebraska announced with glossy promotional videos. Initial displacement notices were polite, almost administrative. By 2018, security checkpoints appeared on roads to Habitat villages. Residents stopped and questioned about displacement status. In 2019, nighttime visits from security, surveillance drones over villages, restrictions on travel. January 2020, al-Huwaiti killed. Remaining holdouts given final ultimatums. By mid-2020, villages effectively emptied. 2021, death sentences. The legal system weaponized against citizens exercising property rights. By 2023, satellite imagery showed former villages physically demolished, bulldozed, erased as if they never existed. Several factors explain why this story has received so little international attention, despite its severity. First, geographic isolation. The Habitat lands are in extreme northwestern Saudi Arabia, hundreds of kilometers from any city. Journalists have no access. Second, absolute control of domestic media. The official narrative is the only one inside the kingdom. Al-Huwaiti's videos deleted from Saudi platforms within hours. Third, the specialized criminal court operates behind closed doors, proceedings not public. Families denied access to legal counsel. Fourth, economic relationships create silence. Arms deals, oil contracts, investment partnerships, diplomacy silences conscience. The United States alone sold over $26 billion in weapons to Saudi Arabia between 2015 and 2024. The United Kingdom approved billions more. Publicly criticizing a weapons customer is bad for business. Finally, the NEOM promotional machine is louder than any human rights report. Billions in marketing. The spectacle drowns out the screams. Activists who re-uploaded al-Huwaiti's footage reported legal threats. ALX documented 8 separate takedown campaigns targeting Habitat content. Family members who spoke to international media were threatened. One woman told the BBC that security visited after she gave a phone interview. Reddit and diaspora groups became the only spaces for sharing information. Even there, users report suspicious monitoring and harassment campaigns. The Citizen Lab at the University of Toronto documented Saudi Arabia's use of Pegasus spyware against dissidents and their contacts. Several Habitat diaspora activists believe their devices were compromised. This creates a chilling effect that extends far beyond the Habitat. Every Saudi citizen who witnesses government overreach must calculate the cost of speaking out. For most, silence is the rational choice. The displaced families now live scattered across Saudi Arabia, some in apartments in Tabuk, others in housing in Duba. Extended families separated by hundreds of kilometers. Communities that once gathered for weddings, funerals, and religious celebrations now communicate only by phone. Tribal identity. built over centuries, dismantled in months. Children who grew up knowing every neighbor now attend schools where nobody speaks their dialect. Elderly residents who never lived outside their village are navigating urban bureaucracy for the first time. The psychological toll has been documented by researchers at dawn: depression, isolation, a generation of trauma that will outlast any construction project. One family elder relocated to Tabuk spoke to Dawn. He described the displacement as a second death. The first was his nephew. The second was his community. He still carries the key to his old house, a house that no longer exists. The legal status of the death sentences remains unclear. Saudi Arabia hasn't confirmed whether executions were carried out. Amnesty International called for reversal. Family members told Augst they have received no information about detained relatives since sentencing. The silence is absolute. At the regional level, the Hawatat case sends a chilling signal. If Saudi Arabia executes citizens for resisting a construction project, what protection exists for anyone? The International Commission of Jurists stated the displacement violated international law, including the right to housing and the prohibition on forced evictions. What does leadership know that they aren't saying? Documents obtained by Dawn suggest senior officials were briefed on resistance months before the killing. What happens when a country markets itself as the future, while executing citizens who refuse to surrender their past? This is the question at the heart of NEOM. Not whether buildings will be built, but what was destroyed to clear the ground. To be fair, Saudi Arabia argues NEOM will bring economic development to Tabuk. Officials say compensation was fair, and displacement followed legal procedure. But Human Rights Watch found no evidence independent property assessments were conducted. Augst documented residents pressured to sign documents they couldn't understand. The legal proceedings used a terrorism court, designed for al-Qaeda militants, used against homeowners who refused relocation. Defense attorneys for the Hawatat defendants reported being denied adequate access to their clients. Hearings were conducted in Arabic with no translation for defendants who spoke tribal dialects. The UN Special Rapporteur on Adequate Housing stated in 2022 that the NEOM displacements appeared to violate international standards on forced evictions. Saudi Arabia did not respond to the rapporteur's inquiry. Terrorism court. That phrase should stop every investor, every diplomat, every architect attached to the NEOM project. The window for accountability narrows as construction advances. Physical evidence of villages being erased, bulldozed foundations, demolished mosques, leveled cemeteries. Satellite comparisons from 2017 to 2024 show the erasure in stages. Villages populated, then emptied, then leveled to bare desert. They are literally burying the evidence under the foundations of a $500 billion project. The 2034 World Cup puts a deadline on silence. International media will arrive. They will ask about NEOM, and they will ask about the people who lived here. Saudi Arabia sold the world a vision, a futuristic city in the desert, innovation, progress, the future of living. What they didn't tell you is that people were already living there. And when those people said no, the government killed one, arrested dozens, sentenced 5 to death, bulldozed the rest. Abdul Rahim al-Huwaiti stood in front of his house and asked for his rights. He asked to keep his home. He asked to be treated as a citizen, not as an obstacle. You've been shown the concept renders, the glass towers, the mirrored walls. Behind every render is land that belonged to someone. The Hawatat tribe deserves justice. Abdul Rahim's family deserves answers. The detained deserve their freedom. Their stories matter more than any render. Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you know someone displaced from mega projects, their experience matters. Subscribe for the truth about NEOM. This is just one tribe. Wait until you see the full death toll from the construction sites themselves.